noticed that we put I thought it'd be helpful for the scripture readings to put the page numbers in the Bible, not recognizing that we have two different sized Bibles. So for part of you, it does pretty good, and does you some benefit, but for the other group, not so much. So I apologize for that. We'll work out something that gets so that you can follow along. Maybe we can just memorize the books of the Bible. We'll do something different. Both of the scripture readings from Romans and from Matthew have to do with staying awake, with being prepared, with being alert, and not letting your guard down. Matthew text probably says it a little bit better, but Paul in the Romans text says more like the hour is far gone. The night is far gone and the light is upon us. The light is approaching. It didn't take long for people to realize that one of the ways, that doing without sleep is one of the hardest things to do. You know, that even the disciples, Peter and James and John, that went with Jesus into the garden, that Jesus said, stay alert here for just an hour. I'll be back. And then when he comes back the first time, he finds them asleep. In the midst of that, I realize it's dark and it's quiet and it's probably a good time to go to sleep. But if you put it back in the context of what's happening, it's really, you're going to sleep at a time like this? And two other times he comes back and they're found to be sleeping. That sleep deprivation is one of the ways that they find out that you can manipulate people. That if you make people go without sleep for long periods of time, they'll pretty much do whatever you want just to be able to fall asleep. I was telling the group last night at the Saturday night service about my encounter with sleep and sleep deprivation that happened back in the Army. And it had to do with my time in basic training, which they didn't tell us about on the recruiter sheets. I don't know why they didn't mention this, but one of the things that they were going to have you do in basic training is that everybody has to do their time being fire guard. Fire guard. Does anybody remember fire guard? I know we've got some Army people. Yeah, there we go. There's a few hands. Fire guard works something like this, that you go out on the range all day and they don't give you a vehicle to take you out there on. You have to run out there and then you run back. And so when you get done with your evening meal and you get all your stuff cleaned up, you're ready to go to bed. You're tired. But there's this thing called fire guard. And they just post a roster that every hour, on the hours, they switch. Somebody else has to get up and do fire guard. And they're the watchmen for the barracks. And you know that this isn't going to work the way that the military draws it up on there. So what we have on fire guard is at 5 minutes to the hour, you get to wake the guy who's coming on duty. Yeah, well, what do you think about midnight, what's happened with the clock situation? It's all been backed up because everybody's ready to get back in bed. So by about 1 o'clock in the morning, they're on the last guy. What's he going to do? Because everybody has cheated on the 5 minutes, because you have to get out of bed. And it's not just a matter of getting out of bed and being alert. You have to really, really pretend as if there might be a fire. So you've got to pull all your gear on and put your boots on. And not just put them on, they got to be laced all the way up. And you have to comb your hair. And you have to make yourself presentable in case there's a fire. Which made no sense. But it's all about being ready, about being prepared. If there was a fire, I was ready. I was more ready to go back to bed. I always seemed to be the one that caught it towards the end of the shift, so that everybody had cheated on those 5 minutes. I think that I started my 1 hour fire guard about 3 o'clock in the morning and everybody else was done already. There's nobody else to wake up. It's pretty bad. The text today, the Matthew text, is kind of a difficult text. The the disciples asked Jesus in this farewell discourse that is all of chapter 24, but they want to know, and they kind of press him about the issue of when you coming back. He's already told them a few things about what's going on, but they're interested in knowing when you coming back. And Jesus just says, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have that information. He just says, no one knows. The angels don't know. I don't know. Only God knows. And so I can take that. I'm all right with that. But others have taken this, and trying to turn it around. Why doesn't Jesus know? I mean, why doesn't he know about his own coming back? And so, there's a group of people, the Pelagians, have used this for years and years and years to say, well, had Jesus really known when he was coming back, that would prove that he's really divine, that he's fully God. And others have said, and I've read every commentary about what that means as to why Jesus doesn't know. But it dawned on me this morning as I did my morning walk and crossing the bridge. You'd be surprised what kind of revelations come to you when you cross over the bridge. So I'm crossing over the bridge and I'm thinking to myself, why doesn't Jesus know? And then I thought, is that really important to me? Well, kind of important. I'd like to know why Jesus didn't know. But then it just dawned on me. It was like, duh. What would have happened? What happens if Jesus says, all right, you really want to know what's going to happen? December 2nd, 2013, 5 minutes till 1. There you go. That's when I'm coming back. And can you imagine Peter, James, and John looking at each other? What does that have to do with us, and why are we worried about it? You can't spend your time worrying about such things that don't pertain to you. To me, it makes perfect sense, and I need for you to focus. That isn't going to do you any good. So the best answer to me really is, don't worry about it. Nobody knows. How about that? Does that make you feel better? I thought, that makes me feel good. It doesn't pertain to me. I don't have that need to know. But now, let's see, when did we say? December 2nd, 2013. 1 o'clock, 5 minutes till 1? It's coming up pretty quick. The problem in the Bible, the problem that the issue is that the franchise is leaving the team. I spent some time in Chicago, and I can tell you what happened when Derrick Rose got hurt 2 years ago. There goes the season. There goes the team. We're not going to be worth nothing yet at the rest of the season. It was pretty much true. We got any Chicago fans here? Uh-oh. I didn't think they were all that before Derrick Rose, but that's okay. But we hear it so much when the star player is no longer part of the team, people are just willing to throw up the hands and say, what are we going to do? There's nothing to be done. I guess we can just be like the Cubs, wait till next year. Yeah, I forgot to look this way when I asked. The text tells us so many things. This days of Noah. Jesus tells the disciples, it's going to be like the days of Noah. When I return will be just like those days. And he's not talking about the condition of the world in the days of Noah. We know about Genesis 6, and where God looks upon the earth and sees that the inclination of every human being is only towards evil. Although it could be that way, but that's not the point of the text. The point of it is that in the days of Noah, they were marrying, they were given in marriage, they were drinking, they were eating, they were doing all that ordinary stuff. They were just going around taking care of business. They were doing things, and they didn't expect the flood to come. That's the way that it will be when Christ returns. So such as in the days of Noah, the ordinariness of all things. We'll be going to church. We'll be going to Smith's. We'll be going to Las Vegas. We'll be going out to eat dinner. We'll be doing all those things. That's the point of the text. And keep that, but you're on fire watch at the same time, okay? You got fire guard duty too. But you need to be alert. You need to pay attention. Part of the problem with what the world sees as what's wrong with the church today is that we're not very transparent. That when people look at us, we're kind of cloudy folks, that we seem to say and do one thing, but we seem to be something quite different. Right now, that we say that we need to be ready, and we need, because Christ is coming back, and the first person that asks us, on the street, when's that going to happen? If we say we don't know, then what does that make us think? What do you mean you don't know? This is the information age. We can find out that kind of information in a nanosecond. We just put it in our search engines. Google can tell us that. What information can we not find out in a minute? We should be able to know. But more importantly than that, rather than having an answer for when Christ is coming back, maybe we should say, what difference does it make? Just like Christ. Who knows? And if I told you, what good would it do you? Would you be willing to live your life a different way than if I told you the answer to that? Perhaps. We sometimes act as if this coming back thing is... Does anybody remember playing musical chairs as a kid? Or that other one, time bomb? I had a time bomb. It was a little thing. There was a little black ball, had a little thing sticking out of it. You got people in a circle and you wound it up and you started ticking away. You toss it to each one, you toss it to the next one. And then if you're holding it when it blows up, well, you're out. Musical chairs kind of like the same thing. They start the music and then somebody's going to be on the out. But sometimes, what we think about is that this return thing is going to be a lot like that. I'm willing to hedge my bet and take my chances. We get enough people to play. There's a bunch of you here. Odds are I'll be okay. Right? Musical chairs, there's only one less chair. The reason that I mention those two things is because sometimes we practice our faith the same way. That our watchfulness kind of makes us think that we can kind of hedge our bets a little bit. That our watchfulness, when Jesus says, I'm coming back, and there'll be two in the field, and one will be gone. There'll be two women grinding grain, and one will be gone. And what he's trying to say is that in the ordinariness of practicing your faith, in the ordinariness of going about your time, I'm coming back, but you need to be alert because things are going to happen. That there's going to be a revealing when I come back. That we can kind of hedge our bets a little bit, and we can kind of blend in with all the ordinary folks that we associate with. But when I come back, there'll be a distinction. That which separates the two men, the two women, is their faith. Their faith. That's the deciding factor. Other than that, you couldn't tell them apart. So, if I had the answer, if I told you this morning that as I was walking to church and crossed the bridge, because lots of good things happen when you cross the bridge, that God told me when when Jesus will be coming back. Do you want me to pass that information on to you? Would it cause you to live your life a certain way? Would you have a little bit more compassion for the two people that you see in the grocery store? Or how about the father and son out playing catch, and you think to yourself, I wonder, one will be taken, one won't. How about the mother and daughter out on the trail riding their bicycle? If you knew the answer to that, would it mean that you would just be more zealous for this separating factor that's going to seem to be the determining factor whether one stays and one goes? Would it mean that we would kind of do something a little bit different, or would we still be the one that is willing to say, well, I think I can hedge my bets a little bit. There's enough of them around here that it won't be me with the time bomb. When the music stops, I'll find a chair. And hopefully they will too. And if one of them's out, what's it to me, right? Well, what is it to us? That's the question that Jesus is wanting you to answer. I mean, you tell the story so that people will stay awake. And their awake means that they will be alert. They'll have their boots on and laced up so that when there is something to do, they're ready to do it. The church is called to be inclusive and to be a place where we welcome everybody into the kingdom. We don't want Christ to return and there be one left on the outside. So we've got a lot of work to do. Our alertness means, for us, right now, that we have to get up and attend the fire guard, no matter what time it is. It's 5 minutes before the hour right now. It's December 2nd, 2013. And I'll tell you, he really didn't say that that's when it was. I'm making that up. This isn't about Harold camping, and this isn't about prophecies in Revelation, and this isn't about what you can glean from Daniel about the end times, because I'm here to tell you that no one knows the hour. I think that that's the most important thing. But what would you do differently if you did? That's the point. How are you going to live your life the rest from now until Christ returns? That's the point. How are we going to celebrate this year at Christmas time about the birth of the child that is there to save us? That's more the point. How will we express our faith in community and with each other? Because faith is going to be that deciding factor when Christ returns. And if we're going to be the church, the kingdom that we're supposed to be, there will be nobody in our sphere of influence, nobody in our circle that's left out. Otherwise, we haven't been alert and we haven't paid attention. Thanks be to God.